This is Railway Profiles, the series where we spotlight one of the many engines that belong to Sodor's railways. This time, we're spotlighting none other than Edward the Blue Engine. Edward is a furnace railway K2, nicknamed the Larger Seagull class, and was built in 1896 to serve the Cumbrian coastline. He was borrowed by the Fat Director in 1915, along with a few other engines, to help with the construction of the then newly founded North Western Railway. However, unlike the other engines, Edward was never sent back. The Furness Railway weren't interested in having him back because he was a shy steamer, and thus he was sold to the Fat Director in 1921 and became the North Western Railway's number 2 engine. Edward's addition proved to be a great help to the Fat Director, as the railway was suffering from a severe locomotive crisis at the time. In the early years of the North Western Railway, Edward was in charge of the express, but when Henry arrived in 1922, Edward was relegated to pulling other passenger trains. Edward returned to the express once more when Henry was confined to the tunnel. But by this point, the trains were longer and proved too much for Edward to handle on his own. In 1923, he had overworked himself to the point where his boiler had burst, and he had to go to the works to be repaired. Gordon took over as the express engine, and Edward was left in the shed while Gordon and 2 other loaned engines, Leonard and Vincent, were trialled. Edward returned to passenger duties a few months later, and got his own branch line in 1925, running from Wellsworth to Brendam. As time passed, Edward began to feel his age. By 1952, he was in a sorry state, something that other engines would make rude remarks about. However, Edward would improve his work when he stopped a runaway James, and was subsequently sent to the works for a rebuild. Thanks to this rebuild, he doesn't resemble a K2 much anymore, but he is no longer a shy steamer, and is one of the Fat Controller's most reliable engines. Other engines still made remarks about Edward's old age, and the idea of retirement was thrown around. Despite this, Edward still remained a useful engine on his branch line, and thanks to his decades of experience, became a mentor for Bill, Ben, and Boko. He finally proved his worth to the mainline engines once and for all in 1967, when he took a train of enthusiasts through a blistering storm, all with a snapped crank pin and his sidewalks removed. Thanks to his perseverance, the other engines now have a great deal of respect for Edward. Throughout the years, Edward has proven that despite his age, he still has what it takes to be a really useful engine.